All right, Accounting 1 kiddos, welcome to our 3-4 work together where we will be wrapping up a journal page, starting a new one, and then doing some proving and ruling. So let's take a little look-see here at what we've got going on. We've got, for the first time, different steps in our problem. So I just want to point that out to you. You can see the different steps, step 1, step 2, step 3. And so I want to just talk about something that you should see on yours. You don't see it on mine because mine is technically in the teacher version right now, but you should have a button down here that says save and continue. If at any point you need to save and continue your work, make sure that you're clicking that button, because if you don't, you will lose what you were doing. So make sure that, hopefully you found that by now, but just in case, wanted to make sure that you're aware. So let's take a look at our instructions. It says I cannot talk. Norma Dirks owns Dirks Copy Center, and we're going to use the information provided to journalize the transactions for April 23rd through the 27th on page 1. And then we're going to total the columns and complete the proof. And then our source documents are abbreviated as follows. The check is C, receipt is R, sales voice is S, and calculator tape is T. So, first things first, let me make this smaller so we can get some work done here. So we are going to wrap up some transactions on page 1. You can see we almost have a complete page of a journal. So we are going to continue on with our April 23rd transaction. Once again, we're not on the first line, so we don't need the month, so we just put the 23rd. And it says our transaction is that we sold services on account to K-Spa again for $150. So remember, we had that one yesterday. When we sold services to K-Spa, that means that we performed a service or sold them goods, and they did not pay for it yet, so that's our accounts receivable again. So accounts receivable is going to increase with a debit of $150, and sales is going to increase with a credit. So just making sure you get everything in the correct columns. Accounts receivable is being debited, sales is being credited. And then also on the 27th, we paid cash to the owner as a withdrawal of equity. So we also did one like that yesterday. This is that Norma Dirks drawing account again. Check number 7. Drawing is that one of those funky owner's equity accounts that is an owner's equity, but since it decreases owner's equity, it actually increases with a debit. So we debit drawing for $800, and then we credit cash for $800. Now, as you notice, I don't know if you can see here, but you have what appears to be a darker gray line. So remember that in MindTap and Applia, you do not need to actually rule. The program will do that for you. However, in your workbook and on your test, you would technically need to single rule across these lines right here. But since the program does it for you, we don't need to. So instead, we come down here and we are going to carry these forward, because note that we aren't done journalizing. We still have transactions. So we need to carry forward our totals. So that means that on the date of our last transaction, which is the 27th, we are going to carry forward our totals. So for this point, I'm just going to close this back up so we can see our whole journal page a little better. You will need to get your handy dandy calculator out at this point. And I always say, go slow, double check your work. It is a few numbers to punch in, but it's not the end of the world, so you'll be fine. Our first column total, which is general debit, when we add all these numbers up, you should get a total of $5,615. When we total up our general credit, we should get a total of $3,655. Our sales credit is $3,130. Our cash debit is $5,555. And our cash credit is $4,385. So before we move forward, we want to prove page 1. And when we prove page 1, all we're saying here is we're making sure that our debits equal our credits. So what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in our numbers. Our debit column total was that $5,615. Our general credit column total was $3,655. So I'm just pulling these numbers right from the bottom of my journal page. Sales was $3,130. Cash was $5,555, and cash credit was $4,385. So once again, we just want to get our handy dandy calculators out. We're just going to total these up real quick. And my debits, I get $11,170. And I'm going to total my general credit here real quick. And I also get $11,170. So that means that our debits and credits equal, and we can go ahead and click on step 2, where we are going to finish up our journal transactions. So the other nice thing about this program is that you can see that they actually filled this in for you. They filled in the brought forward. Obviously your workbook and your test are not going to do that, so you would have to do that. You, again, because you're on the first line of a journal page, you can see here we've got page 2 and page 1. You can click on either one to see them. Because we're on the first line of a new journal page, you do have to include the month again. So that's why April is there. The words are brought forward. Since we carried them forward on the last page, this is the brought forward. And then those are just the totals that we just found. Okay. So let's continue with our last 2 transactions. On the 29th, we received cash on account from K-Spa. So we put in the 29th. Our account title is going to be Accounts Receivable, K-Spa. Document number is R3 for receipt 3. Since K-Spa paid us, that means that their accounts receivable is going down with a credit. So we put in 150 and our cash goes up with a debit of 150. And then our last transaction is that we received cash from sales for $625, T30 or calculator tape 30. So we plug the 30th in. Again, one of those special ones where if you notice it's cash and sales, which means those are both special amount columns. So we need to put our check mark here. So we do our drop down menu, put our check mark, T30, and then we just plug in sales credit, $625, and our cash debit is also $625. So that's the end of step 2. We've journalized our transactions. Now it's time to do our totals for the month. So regardless of where you are, if you've hit the end of a journal page or not, at the end of the month, we always total and rule our journal. So you can see technically, as I scroll down here, we're only on line 4, and that's fine. Once again, notice that they are doing the rule for you. Obviously, if you were in your workbook or on the test, you would need to do that rule. So April has 30 days, so we plug the 30th in. The last day of the month is always the day that you do totals, and that is what we put in for our account title is totals. And then we come over here and we just total up. So some of these will be a little easier because there's obviously only one number in some of them. So our general debit obviously stays at $5,615. Our general credit goes to $3,805. Sales credit goes to $3,755. Cash debit is $6,330, and cash credit stays the same at $4,385. Now before we finish, before we would double rule, we need to once again prove that our debits equal our credits. So again, what I'm going to do is just pull those numbers down right from my journal. So 5,615, 3,805, 3,755, 6,330, and 4,385. Handy dandy calculators. Mine's being slow. Okay, so we add up our debits, and I get 11,945. Oops. And for credits, I get 11,945. So when our debits equal our credits, as accountants, we're very happy people. And so this is the, oh my goodness, I almost forgot. We better prove cash. Good grief. Good grief gravy. Okay, better scroll here. Okay, so using the information from page 2, we're going to prove cash. All cash, when we prove cash, we just want to make sure that our records are the same as what our next unused check stub says. So it says when we started our business in April, we had no cash on hand. So we just fill in 0 right here. Plus then we take our total cash that was received during the month. Well, if we're receiving cash, that's our cash debit. So we look up here and our cash debit was $6,330. So we put in $6,330. Our total cash that we got during the month then was $6,330. If our cash on hand balance had been something else, all you're doing is adding those two numbers together. Then we subtract out our total cash that was paid during the month. Well, total cash paid would be our cash credit, so that's $4,385. When we do that quick calculation with our calculators, or if you're really good at mental math, which I am not, we should get a total of 1,945, which, according to our instructions, that is the balance on our next unused check stub. Since those two numbers equal, we are happy campers as accountants. So that's how you prove cash. Very simple, very easy to do. Don't forget to do it at the bottom of step 3 like I almost did. So that's the end of our work together. You can head on over and do your 3-4 on your own. Your application problems, I believe there are 2 of them for 3-4. You've got 2 of them to do, some extra practice. And then don't forget about your terms and questions as well.